ever feel like your app is kind of like the hidden gem,
Mm-hmm.
you know, buried under a mountain of other apps? Today, we're diving deep into app intents. It's really the key to making your React Native app stand out,
Yeah.
especially the Apple ecosystem. You sent over some really fascinating resources for this. We've
Yeah.
got technical documentation, developer blogs, even some code examples.
It's great stuff.
This is all about
Yeah.
equipping you with not just the what of app intents, but the why.
The why is important.
Why mastering this could actually make or break your app's success.
Especially now.
It's true. App intents are becoming
Yeah.
really critical for developers, especially in the Apple world. I think that they're deeply integrated into that whole Apple intelligence push, which signals a pretty significant shift in how users are going to be interacting with their devices.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit for those who might be unfamiliar. What exactly are app intents? I saw a really clear explanation in creating an iOS app with intents using Expo and React Native. Well, imagine letting users interact with your app without even opening it.
Oh, wow.
That's what app intents enable. Voice commands with Siri, appearing in spotlight searches, even powering complex automations and shortcuts. It's like giving your app a direct line to the heart of the iOS experience.
So it's about making your app do things, not just be a thing.
Right.
That makes sense. People use their devices so differently now. It's about searching for what they want to do, not just a specific app.
Exactly. And that deeper integration offers a huge competitive edge, making your app discoverable in ways you might not have even imagined before. For example, let's say a user searches for order coffee, and boom, your coffee ordering app appears, even if they have never even heard of it before.
Wow. That's a really powerful example. You mentioned Apple Intelligence, and I know Apple is investing very heavily in AI, particularly with Siri. How do app intents fit into that whole picture?
Well, with large language models powering Siri now, it's becoming incredibly sophisticated. Understanding natural language and context like never before. This means that if your app can be controlled by voice commands, Siri can understand and execute those commands intelligently, creating a really seamless user experience.
Okay. So if your app isn't playing in this space, it risks feeling clunky and outdated. I'm already starting to see the urgency here, especially with Apple seemingly going all in on this approach.
It's not even just about keeping up with the Joneses anymore. It's about survival. Apps that leverage app intents are going to have a significant advantage in discoverability, user engagement, overall functionality.
Yeah. You know, speaking of which, you mentioned that app intents aren't exclusive to iOS.
Right.
I saw intent Android. In the React Native docs, does that mean the concept exists on Android as well?
You're right. The concept of intents as a communication mechanism between apps and the OS exists on both platforms, but the implementations differ significantly. Think of it like speaking different dialects.
But the same language.
Okay, so it's a universal concept. But with platform-specific nuances, that's important to keep in mind. Absolutely, and that's where things get really interesting for us as React Native developers.
That's right. We're working in a cross-platform world. So what does this mean for us when it comes to implementing app intents?
Well, this is where we have to acknowledge that React Native can sometimes lag behind native development in adopting the latest OS features, and this lag can be a challenge, especially when it comes to platform-specific features like app intents.
So we might need to get our hands a little dirty with native code to kind of bridge that gap.
Exactly. We'll need to tap into tools like the native modules object, which acts as a bridge between our JavaScript code and the native capabilities of each platform.
Sounds like navigating this cross-platform landscape with app intents requires a pretty strategic approach.
It certainly does, but with a little planning and an understanding of the tools at our disposal, we can leverage the power of app intents to create truly integrated and engaging experiences for our users.
That sounds promising. Let's dive deeper into the specifics in part 2. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We've established that app intents are becoming essential for React Native developers, especially those focused on iOS. So now, let's explore what it takes to actually design these intents effectively.
That makes sense. We've talked about the what and the why. Now I'm curious about the how, the article. Accelerating app interactions with app intents really emphasize that this isn't just about accessibility. It's about making your app truly useful within the Apple ecosystem.
That's a crucial point. It's not enough to just add an intent. We really need to think about how it fits into the user's workflow and genuinely enhances their experience.
How do we move beyond just launching the app? or performing a basic action. How do we make a well-designed intent really shine?
Customization. Customization is key. We can create custom responses, visual snippets, even tailored Siri dialogue based on how the intent is triggered. Hey. Think about a user asking Siri to find a recipe for pasta carbonara from your cooking app. Instead of just opening the app, Siri could display a preview of that recipe directly on the screen.
Wow, that's much more engaging and helpful. It feels like the app is truly a part of the system.
Exactly. And to achieve that level of sophistication, we need to understand a few key concepts. Mastering app intents dives deep into appentity. And the querying mechanisms, think of it like organizing a library. If you just throw books on shelves randomly, it's impossible to find anything. But if you categorize and catalog them, you can easily locate any book you need. Similarly, structuring your app's data in a way the system understands is crucial.
So we're teaching our app to speak the operating system's language.
Precisely. We need to structure our data with appentity and use queries like entity query so the system can easily find and utilize the information.
Okay, so we've got custom responses and structured data. What else should we consider when designing powerful intents?
Context. How is the intent triggered? Voice command, spotlight search, shortcut. The context really informs how we design the interaction.
So the intent could behave differently in different situations.
Absolutely. If someone triggers the intent through Siri while driving, you'd want a streamlined, voice-focused experience. But if they trigger it through a shortcut on their iPad, you could present a richer, more visual interaction.
Okay, so anticipating how and where users interact with our app is critical. This is getting me really excited about the possibilities.
That's great to hear. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. We need to use these tools thoughtfully.
Yeah, don't overcomplicate things.
Exactly. We don't want to create confusing intents. The goal is to simplify and enhance the user experience.
Right, adding value, not clutter. I like that. What about those terms, like provides dialogue and shows snippet view? You mentioned those earlier. Can you elaborate on those?
Certainly. Those are tools that let us really fine-tune the user experience. Provides dialogue allows us to customize the dialogue Siri uses when interacting with our app, making it more conversational and natural. And shows snippet view lets us create those visual previews of information like that recipe snippet we discussed.
It's all about tailoring the experience, making it feel intuitive and seamless.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to. Get creative. Think about the unique data or functionality in your app. How could you leverage those in unexpected ways through app intents?
I'm starting to see how app intents could really be a game changer. It's not just about building a flashy app, it's about building one that integrates seamlessly into people's digital lives.
You're getting it. Now, well, we've covered a lot about designing effective app intents. There's one crucial aspect we haven't addressed yet.
The React Native part, getting those intents to actually work in our apps.
Exactly. We've laid the groundwork. Now in part 3, let's bridge the gap between theory and practice in the React Native world.
Welcome back to our deep dive on app intents. We've covered why they're so crucial for React Native developers, especially those focused on iOS, and how to design them for maximum impact. Now, it's time to tackle the big question. How do we actually implement them in our React Native projects?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Bridging the gap between React Native's cross-platform nature and the platform-specific world of app intents can feel like a challenge, but it's absolutely achievable.
Yeah. We talked earlier about React Native sometimes lagging behind native development. Does that create a significant hurdle for us?
It can, but remember, React Native is built for flexibility. We have tools at our disposal. To bridge that gap, one key tool is the native modules object, which acts as a bridge between our JavaScript code and the native functionalities of each platform.
Okay, so we can write some native code to handle the app intent logic and then expose that functionality to our React Native app.
Exactly. The Expo App Intents tutorial you sent is a great starting point. It shows how to create a native module that exposes an intent to the iOS system, allowing your React Native code to trigger and interact with that intent.
It sounds like we're essentially creating a custom bridge between React Native and the native platform's capabilities.
That's a great way to put it. And those code examples from the React Native App Intents repo, those can be incredibly helpful as well. They provide practical snippets and guidance on how to implement specific intents, giving you a head start in your development process.
So we're not fumbling around in the dark. We have a map and a compass to guide us.
Precisely. And remember, you're not alone in this. There's a vibrant React Native community out there. Leverage Online forums, blog posts, open source libraries, some libraries, are specifically designed to streamline app-intense integration for React Native developers, abstracting away some of the complexities.
Oh, wow. That's reassuring to know.
Okay.
But even with those resources, I imagine staying up to date with React Native's evolving support for app intents is critical.
Absolutely. The React Native ecosystem moves fast. Keep an eye on new releases, community discussions, blog posts to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay. All right, let's talk about testing. How do we make sure our app intents are working as expected, especially in a cross-platform environment?
Testing is crucial. We need to ensure our intents function correctly across different platforms, devices, and scenarios. This means embracing a comprehensive testing strategy, unit tests, integration tests, and end-to-end tests.
So we're putting our app intents through boot camp, making sure they can handle anything we throw at them.
Exactly. Unit tests verify the logic of our native modules and intent handlers. Integration tests ensure our React Native components interact smoothly with the native code, and end-to-end tests simulate real user interactions, covering the entire flow.
Okay, so it's about building confidence in our implementation.
Yeah.
Knowing that our app will deliver a seamless and enjoyable experience to our users, regardless of their platform or device.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Implementing app intents in React Native might feel like stepping outside your comfort zone at first, but the rewards are significant.
Yeah, it's about future-proofing our apps, making them more discoverable, versatile, and ultimately more valuable to our users. It's about becoming an indispensable part of their digital lives, not just another icon lost in the sea of apps.
Well said. And remember, the React Native community is there to support you, share your experiences, ask questions, and learn from others who are navigating this exciting landscape.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Embrace the challenge, experiment, iterate, and don't be afraid to dive into the native side of things. The power and potential of app intents are well worth the effort.
It sounds like a call to action. For all you React Native developers out there, mastering app intents is no longer optional. It's the key to staying relevant, competitive, and delivering truly integrated experiences in the evolving world of mobile apps. Until next time, keep diving deep.